Welcome back to part 2 of the shop renovation. By the end of this video, we'll be ready to start drywalling, but there's a lot to be done. I still need to spray the foam on all the cracks, as you see me doing now. Add baffles to the underside of the roof deck to allow for proper airflow in the attic after the 2 layers of insulation are done. Roughen the electrical for the shop tools. Build a new wall where the miter saw station used to be, and add a layer of insulation to the attic and the exterior wall. In addition to spraying the edges and the seams of the drywall, I also made sure to spray all of the cracks and holes in the electrical as well, as these are easy areas for air to really move right through the insulation. Now that I have everything as airtight as possible, I can add the baffles to the rafters. With a single layer of R15 insulation, this step wouldn't really be needed, but I do plan on adding another layer of R30 on top of it, going perpendicular to this, so I'm just installing them now to save me the hassle later. As you can probably see, not all of these actually have vents in them, but I'm adding baffles to them anyway. The reason I'm doing this is because when we redo the outside of the house, my guess is we will replace the soffit at the same time, and I'm not really sure where they're going to want to put the vents for those, so I figured if I just replace them all now, I won't really have to worry about it when that time comes. Getting these installed is rather self-explanatory. You pretty much throw them up, throw some staples in them, and you're done. But the hardest part is definitely just getting down in that area so you can get a staple to them, while simultaneously not getting a roof nail in your back or falling through the drywall underneath you. Something that I've seen a fair bit of others do is add power in the ceiling for the tools that are in the middle of the shop. I like this idea, and so before I can add insulation to the attic, I need to get those in as well. I plan on having two 240 volt plugs in the 2 gang boxes and the single duplex outlet in the single gang boxes for the 120 volt. I can't imagine a time when I would need more than this, but time shall tell. Most of you are probably wondering why I didn't do this before sealing everything up with foam, and to be honest, I just forgot about them. While I'm up there, I'm going to add these pipe hangers into the ceiling so that hopefully the dust collection doesn't look as terrible as it did before with the pipe strap. Fun fact, the original scope of this project was to add insulation to the attic, and that was it. Now, 2 months later, and a YouTube channel, I'm getting around to that. I wasn't able to find insulation that was the correct size for these cavities without the backing on it. So all I'm doing in this scenario is laying down the insulation with the face down like it would be, but I'm just not stapling it in like you typically would. The stairs that go up to the attic are not insulated or airtight in any way. So instead of replacing the ladder, I found one of these foil air covers that you can put around an existing ladder. They're only about $35, and so I think it'll probably work pretty good for how much it costs. I was reading a little bit on the diminishing returns of R values, and it got me rethinking my original plans to fur out this wall to gain around 7 more R value in insulation. After thinking on it for about a week, I decided to simplify this part of the project and only insulate the existing 2x4 cavities. so I can start adding the electrical back to this wall and then insulate afterwards. Even if I get the garage door insulated, I think my biggest heat loss will be the floor. And I'm not sure 2 more inches of insulation on this wall is really going to make that big of a difference. This is something that I have struggled with, and I'm not 100% sure I'm making the right decision, to be honest. I'd really like to know what you guys would have done here, so let me know what you think in the comments. While I chug away on this wall, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has watched, commented, subscribed, and liked the last video. My goal for this year was to get 100 subscribers, and as of this video, we are at 350. So we are well over what I wanted to achieve this year, and I'm very grateful. So thank you very much. This 90-degree drill attachment is fantastic for these studs that are too close together for my regular drill bit to reach into. This is one of those tools that I didn't realize how badly I needed until I had it. I find myself using it all the time for weird and tight spaces. If you don't have one of these and are interested in one, I have an affiliate link to one I have in the description. With the exception of these first 2 boxes, all of the double gang boxes will have a 240 circuit and a 120 circuit in it, and all of these single gang boxes on this wall will have just a single 120 circuit. Now for the part I've been excited about the most. The biggest weakness of this space is the lack of usable wall space. In the little wall space where my clamps are currently, I like to add an exterior door so that I can get into the garage without opening a huge garage door or walking through the house. Now that I've relocated the miter saw station, this seemed like the perfect space to recover some of that lost space, and it makes this area a little safer for my kids while I'm at it. The total length of this wall was going to be 12 feet, but instead of building one solid wall, I decided to break it up into a 4-foot section and an 8-foot section, mainly because it's just me putting it up, and putting up a 12-foot wall by myself would have been a nightmare. Secondly, I wanted to see what the wall looked like before cutting out the railing, and I figured a 4-foot section would be easy enough to move around and get a feel for that. I was a little apprehensive about cutting out this metal railing, and so I played around with putting the wall directly in front of it. That way I could revert the garage back if I ever needed to. But honestly, it just looked like crap, and so I went with my gut and removed the railing. I left the short side of the railing in place for now, but I plan on adding a permanent floor over the last 4 feet or so of the stairwell and moving the railing out to there. That way I can get to this wood rack easier and have some out-of-sight storage. Speaking of wood rack, I hope I can get that lumber out now that I've built the wall around it. And now that I have the 4-foot wall in a place that I'm happy with, I'm going to assemble the 8-foot wall and put it up next to it, and then I will square them up together, fasten them to the floor, ceiling, and each other. My framing construction is nothing special. 16 on center studs with a pressure treated base plate since it's going directly on the concrete. You can see how much I'm struggling just with an 8-foot section of this wall, so I'm really glad I didn't try to mess with the full 12-foot. I think what really messed me up was just my shop lights dropping down and hitting, so I had to really finagle it around to get around the shop lights. In addition to that, you can see that this wall is actually slightly too tall, so I had to use a little encouragement to get it to fit. Now that I have both walls installed and in line with each other as well as level, I go ahead and use the ram set to attach the wall to the floor. I will put a nail in between each of the studs. Turns out I wasn't done in the attic after all. I needed to add blocking to the trusses so that I had something to fix the new wall to. After the wall was squared up and properly affixed to the ceiling and floor, I could get the last of the electrical roughed in and done. With the wall now level and secured, I can go ahead and add the electrical boxes to this wall and rough in the electrical so it's ready for drywall. The receptacle configuration for this wall will be slightly different than the exterior wall. The 2-gang boxes will just have a pair of 120 receptacles, and the single gang boxes will have a single 240 receptacle. Now, all of the wire that you've seen me rough in so far down below for the receptacles on that exterior wall, as well as this interior wall that I'm making, has all been reused from the electrical that I ripped out. So the only wire I was not able to recycle for the outlets on these 2 walls was the feeds that come from the attic down into the walls. I decided to tie my power for the exterior wall, the new wall, and the outlets and the ceiling all at the same junction boxes, as you can see here. This resulted in these 2 junction boxes, one for the 120 volt power and one for the 240 volt power, to be a little busy, and to be perfectly honest, I don't really like how it turned out. I think if I had to do it again, I would have mounted the boxes higher and fed all of the wire into the boxes from what would have been the bottom of the side of the box, resulting in a cleaner install. I wanted to wire them this way so I had the flexibility in the future if I ran into capacity issues down the road. For example, if I found that I am constantly tripping one of the breakers, I can run a new circuit up to this area and move the offending branch onto its own circuit. For anyone noticing the hole in the side of that junction box, I did come back later and plug that. After all the electrical rough-in was done, I was ready to do the final insulation that I needed to add on the exterior wall. Now, I'm pretty sick of recording myself put insulation in, so for this wall I decided not to record it, and here is mostly it finished. There's still some odds and ends I need to finish up. For example, the one area near the garage door still needs a 2x4 put in it to attach drywall, and then I will insulate it afterwards. And there's also a few cavities that I need to foam and spray, as well as some small areas that I need to add some more insulation. I've never stapled my insulation to the edge of the 2x4, so the face of the wall like this, but I have seen some people recommend it, and I decided to give it a try on this wall since the stakes were pretty low. And with that installed, this is what the attic looks like as of right now. I still need to add the second layer of insulation, but I will probably wait to do that until the fall. I didn't show it, but if you look down by the baffles that I installed, you can see that there are rolled plugs of insulation that I installed. What that'll do is keep the air from just coming up and going sideways through the insulation and kind of direct it up through the baffles. And with that, I think it's the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you on the next one.